Well, hey everybody, I'm back and we're going to move into talking about layouts. And in this video, part of our semi-complete guide to PyQt6, we're going to take a look at form layouts. Now, we've already done the vertical box layout, the QV box layout, and the QH box layout. Now, honestly, I feel like those are just fine. They do most of the job. However, when it comes to creating apps, the form layout app offers one really nice benefit, and that is it simplifies the labeling system. Okay, and it just removes an extra step. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to create a sort of a basic new user type app. All right, and we're going to use the form layout and we're going to program it, and then I've got some ideas for how you can extend and expand your programming skills through this tutorial. So without further ado, let's go to the GitHub repository. Hopefully you already have a copy of it on your computer and you can work off of there. So we're going to go over here, and I'm on the title screen, so I'm going to move over to the form layouts. You can find that in the Explorer. It's going to be under layouts, and it's the one that says form layouts. I should let you know, if you're one of the early adopters and you've been following this tutorial and you are waiting for this to come out, you're going to want to get the main branch. You're going to want to pull that into your GitHub repository, because I actually just now pushed the changes to the main branch. And if you were to go there and you were to open up layouts and form layouts was empty, then you didn't get the right one. So here we go. Let's work on this. If you're an eagle eye, you spot I just changed the, I just basically changed the name of this. See, because now it says form layouts, and there we go. I have to go back and check all my other apps I've done so far. See if you can find some, spot some, let me know. Do a pull request on my GitHub repository. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, let's move along. So here we go. This is a demo of a new user type form using the QForm layout. Now I have QLabel, QLine edit, QPush button, and right now I have a QV box layout, but we have a series of to-do lists. I went ahead and left the QV box layout. Now, you have the option. You can leave this main layout and add your form into the VBox layout, noting that the QForm layout is a type of layout. So if you're going to add it to the layout, you got to use the add layout, not add widget. A lot of students have trouble remembering that. They forget they're trying to add a layout and they code it like it's a widget. Well, anyway. Point is, that's the first thing we're going to want to do. We're going to want to change that. We're going to create a title. Now, a couple things about the QForm. Let's take a look at just a great article about it. So I'm over here at Real Python, one of my favorite go-to sources to learn new Python tricks and just find out what others, especially professionals, have to say about this. I found it to be very helpful. We're going to look at the PyQt layouts, create professional looking GUI applications. This will be a great resource, so I'm going to post that in the comment section or in the video description below. And okay, so if you scroll down here, there's a creating forms quickly, because I want to just talk about the forms. Really, you create a QForm layout, and you can add input widgets, QLine edits. You can even put labels or not. And so if you can think of a widget, you can add it. And what you do is you create yours and then you add rows. When you add a row, you add it as a label and a field or a widget, okay? And you could create just a Q label. If you do that, you don't need an additional label. It will just fill out the space. But what it will do is when you add your rows, we'll take a look at, for example, we have a layout here, add row name, add row job, add row, email label, and then we're going to scroll down and it will look like this. The form will give precedent to the widgets that you put in, so whatever width we need, and then the labels will sort of help decide, you know, it's not going to make it like centered or anything. It's going to take like the longest label and then just give enough room for the longest label in there, and you'll get a chance to experience that. So we're going to go ahead and do this, but like I said, you might want to you can just go here and look at this. There's a lot of great ideas here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here. I'm going to do the following. I'm going to create a title. The title will not change, so we don't need self in front of it. And if you were curious about what the whole self dot, go view my previous video on object-oriented programming. And that's a good one if you're curious about it. We're going to have instructions. And instructions don't necessarily need to change. So I don't think we're going to put a self in front of it unless you want to change it. Because there is the idea here is if they do something incorrect on a form, you want to alert them to it. You don't want to just let it be incorrect, send it to your database and have it be all messed up, right? So you want to encounter some what they call validation errors before anything gets sent anywhere and is processed, okay? So, and of course, Python will be really easy to do that, and that'll be one of the things I recommend we do. But we're going to have instructions. Now, we're going to create an input to get the user's name. To simplify things, there's a couple options of what you can do here. I don't know why it doesn't like that, so let's just go back here, save our changes. All right, and so to create an input to get the user's name, one of the things is you could make your form self dot, and I believe you could access the rows, but there's not going to be a name for the rows. It's probably in your best interest to create the widgets and then add them after. So I recommend all of these, creating this, creating that. I'm asking you to create and make and make and make, and then at the end, add all the rows to the form. So like I normally do, we're going to do this all in fast motion. Well, okay then, here we are. We got it up and running, but do you notice anything missing? I completely forgot to give you a to-do to actually create a button to create account and maybe one to clear the screen. So let's go ahead and add it. But before I do, let me just kind of walk you through what I did, just so you know. I had to change this from a VBox layout to a QForm layout. Now, I switched it. And because I'm only using the QForm layout, just to show you that you can put inside of it a Q label, for example, and when you add the row just as a label, it will fill the width. You'll also notice I had some issues with the sizing of all of this, and the problem with the sizing that I had was because I never set the word wrap up here to true, so I had to set the instructions label to have a word wrap of true. Okay, so we have everything in place except for the two push buttons. So we're going to go ahead and add those, and then we're going to want to do some programming. And as you most likely have guessed, we're going to do this also in fast motion. Okay, so I don't know if you watched that, but I had some mistakes and I was having a little bit of trouble on the form layout. If you may have noticed, I ran through a bunch of different options for the buttons. The first thing I attempted on the buttons was just to add them as on one row, 2 buttons side by side, but then the layout looked weird. One button was too small, the other was too big. I don't know if you noticed that. So then I decided, what if we put the 2 buttons, one on each row, have an entire row for it. That didn't look quite right. And I decided, hey, horizontal box layout. There's times where you just, you shouldn't ever avoid using a layout if it makes sense. Okay, so highly recommend you do that. The other issue I had was with this label of instructions. Okay, the label of instructions here was getting cut off. And so the solution for that, in case you didn't notice, was setting the minimum height. Okay, so we're just about there now. The one thing I haven't done as far as the UI goes is dealing with the password edits. So on the password input and the confirm password input, we don't want to show the text. We don't want to show the user what they're typing in. So we're going to use a thing called echo mode. I'll be honest, I had to look this up. So there was a time between when I first worked on that last video you saw in fast motion and now I had to do this in research. A thing called echo mode, it goes with the Q line edit. So you just put echo mode, little e, capital M mode, and on here you're going to put Q line edit. And I'm talking about this because this is not something you're going to just immediately think of. Oh yeah, I'm guessing to hide the password, we must be doing echo mode. No, you don't think of that word. So someone came up with it. Now, notice I hit dot. I hadn't typed anything out, but there are 2 forms of echo mode. One is the little echo mode, and the other is the capital E. We're going to use that echo mode, and then we're going to hit dot and password. Okay, so that's what we're going to use. We're going to copy that and paste it in our confirmation password. So let's go ahead and test that out. We're going to go ahead and run it and type some text. There you go. We got the dots there. Awesome. Hey, one thing you'll notice a lot of times in my code, you'll see things like red underline. I have a thing called a linter, and in this case, it's telling me this line is too long. So it's only supposed to be 79 or fewer characters. So the best way to resolve that is you look inside. If you've got a function call like QLine edit, technically, I'm sorry, we're creating a QLine object. But anytime you see parentheses, you can hit enter and hit save. And Python doesn't mind it being on another line, and it actually matches. So, and the idea here is you just don't want to have to read too far to the right. It makes it just easier to see your code. Well, that gets us to the UI working exactly how we want it. Now, the last thing we need to do is program it. And so I'm actually not going to program all of it because these are all things that you should know by now if you've been following my tutorial. Now, I will have the solution on the solution branch, and I will get you started and then just add a couple to-dos. But so I'm going to give you some challenges in just a moment, but let's just go ahead and do just a little bit. We're going to do a partial work of this, and we're going to, of these 2 methods, and we're going to do it in fast motion. Then I'll do a little debrief and talk about your challenge. Okay, I'm back. Let's talk about the highlights of what I did. I changed the placeholder text to say username here, and I added placeholder text to the email input. And then I also created this echo mode, and I had to look this up, but if you want to do a password where you can't see what the user types, all right, then what you do is you create an echo mode and you set it to qline-edit.echo mode. Now notice this echo mode was with a little e and this one was the capital E. And then we set it to password. So I think it's just password and normal. On here, I did the same thing on the confirm password, but you'll notice I put this, I hit a line return here. That's to keep this line from getting too far to the right. 79 characters wide is as wide as you want to go in a Python script. Otherwise, you're having to read too far. So usually, if you're trying to condense lines, you look for parentheses. It's a good spot to hit enter. If you had a comma, like you had multiple arguments in a function call, you could separate at a comma, and this is how I did it so it would fit. A couple more things did I talk about? Oh yeah, the confirmation label. I went ahead and got rid of the confirmation text and I added a self dot in front of it so that it makes it easier to clear the confirmation label. And I tried it with the string variable. It didn't seem to work right. So we're just going to do it this way. Confirmation label, Q label. I set the minimum height here. I set the word wrap to true. You probably didn't see it on the video because I added it after recording it. You have to make sure you put the self dot in front of the confirmation label. And then I just wanted to demonstrate one of the issues with capturing passwords. You notice how I typed in some password text in here? I'm going to go ahead and click Create User. I put a little breakpoint in there because I want to show you. Look at that. It captured the text, that variable, and it created it as plain text. So you're not going to want to display that in the results. So be careful about that. So then, of course, it's self.confirmation label.setText results. And then I went ahead and on the clear form, decided to add that as well. I'm going to go ahead and continue through here, and I'm going to hit clear form. Oh, you'll notice username, email. I put a little line break after email before password. I'm going to click clear form. Let me go ahead and add some information and show you what happens when I click create user. Okay, so I went ahead and clicked here. I'm going to click create user and then hit enter on there. And username, Fred Agar, email, fred@fredsrs.com, and password. Of course, we didn't do that. Clear form. There we go. Great. So that's it. That's our text. There is more. Check for validity. We didn't do that. There are some, we didn't grab the confirmation password. So there's still a little more work that you can do. But I just want to challenge you to finish creating or finish these methods. Style your app. We had a whole tutorial on styling apps. So if you don't know how to do that, I would go to look for that in my series. It was just a couple of videos ago. You can make a personality quiz or some other type of form type program. And, you know, like those, which Hogwarts house are you? And things like that. And then you can also display a warning if any of the following occurs. Let's say the email doesn't match your guidelines. There's no @ sign, something like that. Maybe the passwords are not the same. Maybe they don't meet the minimum length requirement. There's a lot you can do with passwords that I'm not going over in here. In fact, I am going to go over this as its own tutorial and talk about some of the strategies of going through that. So stay tuned for that one. At this point, once you're done, go check out the solutions branch and see how you did. And if you're having trouble with anything, I would just look at the solutions branch, see how I did it. And then if you got any questions, post those questions in the comments. And thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for more.